So today we have the pleasure of receiving Niall Jones. Niall, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yeah, I'm obviously a Brit and I'm based in Bulgaria, helping companies, generally I'm helping companies scaling internationally. So I work sometimes sort of embedded, sometimes working with them like a consultant partner.
Okay.
And a network of guys in the UK and elsewhere, helping them to do whatever they have to do to go to the next level.
Okay. So with all the networking down now, it's safe to say that we're out of business, basically.
Well, yeah, just trying to move everything virtually,
Yeah.
I guess, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working on sort of updating my proposition.
Okay.
On the back of that.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. And what kind of businesses are you involved in?
I've mainly been working with tech companies. So a couple of times I've gone pretty much completely embedded, almost full time.
Okay.
And they're companies like an American company, a French company, who are working with sort of global clients, or they're working with the US market or the French market, that kind of thing.
Okay. So you join in a company and then you bring in a set of skills, put it on track for some strategy execution, and then you move on.
I guess to go into a bit more depth on that, I mean, it's like, I would say it's a combination of sort of, well, I think of it like sort of, we have a lot of conversations. It's looking at sort of strategic direction, scaling them from the point of view of what things they need to decide in relation to that and what activities then fall out of it. I do quite a lot of work around content and comms, setting up sort of lead generation campaigns, that kind of thing, and sometimes things like spin out ventures. Yep. So as I'm sort of packaging my proposition in these times now, I'm splitting it into sort of creative conversations, fast facilitation, and impact content. But when you put them all together, it's like I could be a bit like a strategic hire.
Okay.
So the two other things that are sort of useful to know are I facilitate like executive peer groups. So I've been running something in Sofia for a couple of years around dinners, and I'm now taking it virtual. And I'm in the process of launching a kind of a global, as a result of what's happening.
Oh, nice.
Kind of like a global executive.
Send us the links. Make sure to put in the links in the. We'll make sure.
Yeah, something like a sort of a global executive peer partner thing.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that for this year to make it very focused on how the heck do we all get through this, you know?
Okay.
So I do that, and I'm a founder of a tech startup, which is also in that kind of collaboration space. That's all just about to kick off as well. So it's dynamic times.
Okay, very, very dynamic times indeed. I mean, I'm in the event industry, and there are no events. I mean, every venue I know of is now transformed into a giant hospital. I'm interested. What are the basic problems and I would say concerns that you hear about in these times from your clients, other than the regular? I don't have income because I don't have business running, and so basically, other than cash, what are the other things that you hear on being problematic for companies to solve in these times?
Probably, I think the first thing that occurred to me and that I'm sort of seeing is that people are sort of gone into a sort of, I'm going to say it's a state of shock, but it's more like a state of caution, I suppose, and everyone's sort of frozen, and there's a slight, from not a huge number of conversations, but the sort of sense of like, we're not going to make any decisions now for any time soon.
Yeah.
So people are afraid, obviously, and it's kind of, where is the certainty? Where's the kind of stability going to come from? Okay. Especially as we see, if we stay tuned into the news, it's kind of this sort of terrifying escalation of everything. Absolutely. It seems most days. But you know, it's interesting because I think I think there's sort of, obviously everyone's having to shift to be virtual. I think some people are sort of aware that it's a great time to act, to take advantage of opportunities, and others maybe are thinking, and this is probably a bit where I'm at, that I'm old enough to have seen, you know, if you're too inactive in these moments, then it's dangerous, you know, I think. So it's that challenge of trying to be decisive and also watch what's happening. I'm not sure it's the best time to be pitching, selling, but it's a good time to be probably investing in education, investing in a future proposition, planning, relationship building, you know, and so for sure, these kind of things.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now. Like that's what you just said is critical. I think also there's to the point what you said to make to build a case around it. I think people, and especially executives in companies, have to come to the conclusion that maybe out of the decisions that are going to be made right now, some of them might not be the best ones. But sometimes a decision can be just better than no decision at all, right? And
that's right. Yeah.
Sometimes like you can take the decision of sending everybody home, not doing anything, see you back in 6 months, but that's the decision of not doing anything versus decision of saying, okay, let's send everybody home, let's invest on education in this and this, let's put our paper brochures, for example, let's get them all digital, no more paper brochures. Like, and then 6 months later you realize that, oh wow, the world wants my paper brochures and I don't have them anymore. So I think the non-decision, I think convincing people that taking a bad decision in these times is definitely better than not being decisive at all.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's right.
Because it can take it in multiple things. So you made a bad decision and you have to live with it.
Yeah.
But then you made no decision and it's more difficult to live with the things. I mean, you don't dwell as a human person emotionally, you don't dwell on the wrong things you did. You dwell on the things you never did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're even as an emotional being, you're like, oh, you don't regret the things you did. You just say, oh, I wish I have done that. Right. I wish I followed my gut feeling at that time and that I did this and that.
Well,
and
I think.
So, go ahead.
I think obviously I think like things won't go fully back to how they were, but I suspect a lot of things will, but it will be in a kind of cautious way. And for sure, because people are looking for answers, people that are decisive and say, here's something that might be part of the answer. Like it's kind of, well, why not do that? Because maybe it is part of the answer. And if there is going to be a kind of a reset of a lot of things, then, you know, new things that seem to fit that new world, if you're quick to move with those sort of things, then, you know, maybe you can get a head start, you know. But at the same time the situation's changing so fast that it has to be an element of just checking in on it all the time, you know, but not too many news notifications all day long.
Absolutely. I disconnect. I disconnected. Yeah. I came back to the period of my grandparents where the news was at 8 o'clock in the evening and it's just half an hour, right? And so I came back to that routine where I check out the news in the morning and then I check out the news around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because we're in Sofia, right? So midday in Europe, and then I'll check out the news in the evening just to check out what's going on the other side of the planet, the States or whatever. And that's it. It's I'm moving. I'm shiftly. What you're saying is very correct, because I'm seeing myself moving from a researcher, from a consumer of what is given to me as news and information to a researcher of what is it that I'm looking for, right? And so, what am I looking for right now? I'm looking for this, and this. Great. So I have a plethora of options in front of me on the internet to go search for that, and that's these things are really changing even my personal habits on this. Okay, so let's just take it to a little bit to the COVID-19 aftermath. Let's consider.
Okay. Yeah.
We know where we are right now, right, in the situation, because we see it. Businesses are closed. The business is down. No travels, no events, no whatever. How do you see? What are the current tendencies in your head that take you in this or that direction for the aftermath? Because everybody's multiple scenarios. Either we're going to slow down, or we're going to be faster than ever, or either we're going to go back to growing our own chicken and growing our own tomatoes, or we're going to go consume only bio. I mean, oil, no oil, renewable energy, no renewable energy. Even the battery of cars is now under the question is, okay, electric cars are great, but what do you do with the battery afterwards?
Yeah.
There's a huge concern regarding the climate with recycling of these batteries. So how do you see
I mean,
it going on?
I think that one of the things is what I'm finding is I'm connecting to people in different ways. I mean, people like I'm obviously from the UK originally, and I'm finding I'm connecting a bit more in more intimate ways to people there than I might have done before. Like the people that are over there that are normally coming together in office environments are suddenly all in the same boat. So I'm effectively in a similar boat to them, and it feels sort of like, well, I'm just the same. I'm virtually connected to them.
Yeah.
I think there's a sort of insanity about the idea that everything will go back to how it was. So I wonder, like, at sort of key airports and places like this, there's going to be some kind of some controls in place or something in place that stops. Like the idea of us going back to exactly how it was, like mass travel, and it's a little bit insane. I sort of feel what I have to do around to this, particularly with the executive peer thing that I've been doing at Sofia around a dinner. Because of what's happening, I've been thinking much more about, well, I can connect people with a common interest virtually around the whole world. And so I wonder in general whether there'll be a lot more of that, you know, and I know we do that in some ways with social media, but maybe there's going to be a lot more of that in the sense of that from a work point of view, that there'll be more connection with people virtually based around common interests because, because we sort of started that now. So why wouldn't, sort of, I think people have sort of seen the possibilities in a different way because it's kind of been forced on us. Obviously, the virtual environment's been there all along, but because it's forced on us now, it's starting to make you think, well, actually, I could be connected to guys just like, let's say that they're a segment in whatever way that are the people that I want to be connected to. Doesn't matter where they are in the world. It sort of it feels a bit different now somehow.
Yeah, I see.
So,
but do you think on a business side, companies are gonna be how to put it in a gentle way? Do you think do you think it will bring a lot of disruption to what we have accomplished? Because one of the differences between this epidemic or pandemic or whatever you want to call it and previous ones is the amount of news coverage on it. I think I mean, information travels faster. A pandemic like this one that would hit 60 years ago, maybe it will kill whatever it will kill, and then it will reach the news after it's over, right?
Yeah.
But now we seem to be like, if you go get a test and you test positive, we know about it in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
5 minutes later, it's just registered, new case, and then and so by the minute when you update the data. Do you think there's going to be a real disruption on what economies have built post 2008 in the digital era, in the companies like Airbnb, Uber, everything related to the sharing economy? I'm thinking about the concept of couch surfing right now. I mean, who's gonna invite an unknown guest to his house for the night for $20? Right. So
I think like people are going to want to have assurances, aren't they? So this is what I was thinking, like whether you're traveling through an airport or you're arriving at a railway station, if you're moving around like beyond your local area, then people are going to want to have some assurance, like whether it's a tag or some app or something to double check that you're okay. I think there'll be a growth of that sort of thing, which is why I was also thinking, maybe things like travel are going to be a bit less kind of like I can travel all over the world all the time. Maybe there'll be a bit of a boom in sort of domestic, more like staying in your own country or your own area and doing sort of a holiday weekend 50 kilometers away as opposed to traveling all over the world all the time. A bit of that's a bit about fear and a bit about common sense and probably a bit about some things that might get put in place just to kind of calm it all down a bit, because we so have to have everything all the time.
And I think it's not only behavioral, it's going to be also economic. Families will not be able to afford that kind of travel for
absolutely
for a while, right? So
absolutely,
businesses are going to be the same. I think more and more businesses are going to go. I think business travel is going to take a hit to start with, because go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say you sort of see a bit of the simpler things in life that people are appreciating now. I've seen that in some of the news a bit, and I remember this from the previous. People will enjoy time with their family at home, or they have a picnic instead of doing an international holiday.
Yeah. Well, because now money is not a problem yet. as much as I'm gonna take a heat from people now, you know nothing about us, we don't have money, da da da. Yeah. But on a global scale, money is still not an issue because whoever got laid off got his unemployment check wherever you're living in the world. Everybody's got some. Everybody took a break. Basically, banks took a break from calling the credits. Uh, your landlords are a little bit more practical with this, and they'd rather you stay and pay a little bit later than not pay at all and just move out
Sure.
and anybody, right? So I think money is not a big problem yet. I think it will be in the next 6 months. Because money is going to run out, right? And governments, I mean, even France yesterday, Macron went on TV and said, basically, we're opening the country on the 11th of May, but still hotels, restaurants, attraction parks, concerts and events will not be accessible. So you can go out, but the only place you can go to is a grocery store and a pharmacy and your office, and your office, right? So I think it will bring in some new habits and some new things. What would you advise? What are you thinking of advising companies on in terms of their digital transformation for the coming? Because the businesses that are really suffering from this are businesses that can't do what I'm doing with you, right? If you're McKinsey and you have a contract with Boeing, and you have a strategy session every Friday, and you used to taking the plane from Seattle to I don't know, Georgia or whatever, and then do that strategy session and then come back. Well, now you're just doing it over Zoom, right? And so maybe that doesn't really destroy the business. But if you're the bakery down the street and you're closed, or if you're the restaurant down the street, what kind of advice are you giving your clients now about digital transformation?
I think things like, for traditional businesses, obviously things like home delivery. I think, if you're looking at career change, it's more around, and I've had an explosion of advertising at me, like quite a great time to start a home business, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm, if I have the thing that I enjoy most and I believe in most, more than anything, is sort of masterminding. And so if you're working with a team that's got a more traditional, non-online kind of way of working, then it's a great time to use their creativity to understand what they could be doing to be in a good shape as we go through this and as we come out of it. And I'm a big believer in the sort of Greek brain work. And that's not only around, business propositions, value propositions, or how we work, but also around things like content and what's the right kind of content at the moment. Because it's a great time to create content. Like you could be, writing if you're going back to a sort of selling mode in a few months, then right now you could be writing a year's worth of content, because it's just a great time for catch up on that sort of thing. So in terms of advice, it's kind of, to be dynamic and to use what you've got around you, the resources you've got, especially people, to think about how can we adapt like today, and how can we keep adapting to what could be just a continuously changing scenario. I wanted to say one other thing. A very optimistic outcome of all of this is, in the UK, homelessness got solved in a week. So there's some things that are about the reset that might scoop up a lot of people that have been a bit displaced in one way or another, like that kind of story. And that, in the most optimistic scenario, we could see that happen. Governments have to step in, literally give people money to survive, and then the whole economy kind of gets recreated in a new way. And some people that are maybe losing out before get scooped up by it, and that kind of interests me as well.
Yeah. Okay. So because when we're talking a couple of days ago with a friend of mine, he was saying basically, if you take the world economy, what people are afraid of usually is the devaluation of their currency, right? And so basically, when your currency takes a hit, and then you lose the power of purchase, if you want, and then the power to create and right. But now, since everybody in the world is pouring in money in different major currencies, dollars, euros, sterling, pound, right? And so it's basically, he was arguing, so if we all take 3 steps back, everyone in the race, if we all take 3 steps back in the race, doesn't it make it even if we just made the three steps forward longer, right? So it's going to be longer, but at least we're at an even pace. And as you said, governments are stepping up. I'm just not a big fan of governments taking care of all problems.
No.
I am on the other hand considering it more as a taxpayer relationship, in the sense of if you're going to bail out companies, bail out the companies that are actually have solid balance sheets, good business models, and impactful business models. I mean, bailing out companies that were already failing just to avoid unemployment rates spiking and for the next elections, that's just stupid, you know, right? That to me, that's just stupid. I mean, if people have to go bust, let them go bust. Like if those 5-6 billionaires that are running hedge funds in Europe are not going to go on their vacation next year, and they're going to have to sell one of their boats, then fine, they'll be fine, right? If they're going to have to sell some of their mansions because they didn't reach their targets, it's fine, but just can't bail out. So
I think that's sort of fair. It's like you kind of like, you know, it's a survival moment. So governments have to step in so people could just sort of feed themselves and survive.
Yes, indeed.
But it's fair. Like it's almost a moment where maybe failing businesses can kind of almost have a sort of free pass to getting back into something, employment or whatever it is, you know, in the new world. You know, so it's interesting. Yeah.
Do you think it's gonna clean out some businesses? Because I have a list in my head that I cannot take off. Clean out in the sense of these industries, these businesses will just go bust.
Well, I think that it's obvious that there's certain kinds of business that are going to suffer much more than others. I mean, the thing that's obvious is, you know, not a great time to be in anything around travel, airlines, you know, but a great time to be in kind of, you know, virtual collaboration, communication, and as clear as that. Possibly, I mean, I suppose what seems obvious is that people are going to be a little bit, you imagine they're going to be reluctant for quite some time to get too close to each other in very kind of mixed ways. So maybe it's going to impact the way that I mean, the obvious one perhaps that we've seen very much in the news is like the cruise liners, the cruise ships. And there's some horrendous stories about being stuck on these ships. And so at least one friend had said that to me, that industry is screwed now. You know, the airlines are a bit different, I think. But I think the volume of international travel is going to be somehow dampened. Although my temptation is to, as soon as it's over, to get out of here, you know.
That's
somewhere.
Absolutely. Like when you're stuck inside, all you can think of is going outside. That's not but if we take it for example, do you think the sharing economy that everybody's talking about, so the Uber, the Airbnb, the meetups, what we call the sharing economy, right? Do you think that's gonna take off? Because that's what society is built about right now. That's what society is built about, you know.
I'm a huge Airbnb user, and I find it very, very flexible. So whenever I go to an Airbnb, I sort of personally feel I'm there on my own normally, or with family, and I think there's something in the way people are going to be tested, like, so that when you are going into those sharing environments, there'll be some way of showing, at least in the short term, that you have an app or. Like,
I gave a business idea yesterday about this. I gave a business idea to my friend from Canada. I told him, listen, if you are a cleaning company, right, and you use the offices and whatever, go see the CDC or whatever health organization you have locally in your government, right, and get proper training, proper certification for heavy cleanups, like because the companies that clean your office are not the same companies that clean out hospitals, right? So get your degree or training into the proper ways and proper material to use to clean up in a hospital, right? To clean in a hospital, and adapt that to housing. And if you take Airbnb, for example, if I'm renting my apartment, I think people would be willing to pay another $10 for the night, an extra $10 for the night if I'm certified this kind of treatment of the apartment between every guest.
you walk in and there's a little screen and it says it's been checked, you know, it's clean, it's
Yeah,
okay, it's been
yeah. There's a
decontaminated,
little
you know.
screen. It's the decontamination, right? I
Uh,
think people are gonna, because now people are spending a little bit more on healthier foods. I think
yeah,
diets are improving. Obesity is gonna drop. Obesity
yeah,
is
yeah,
gonna drop when you're not going to Burger King and McDonald's anymore. You're just cooking at home, and even if if you make your own pizza at home and your burger at home, it's still 10 times healthier than whatever you can eat outside, right?
yeah. Home
So
cooking's up, right? And on a comment on things like tourism, I think what you might see is like you naturally people like there's less money going around. People are less inclined to go to 5-star
yeah,
hotels. They
yeah,
still want to go, but they'll go camping or they'll go to Airbnbs actually. So Airbnbs and things, it's an affordable way to go and have a holiday. So
yeah.
I suspect if it's safe,
Mm.
then the more affordable tourism stuff will be okay, but the high end stuff is more
Mm.
likely to suffer. That's what I
Yeah.
imagine.
Unless high-end stuff position themselves on a liability issue. For example, companies that
Yeah.
had given flexibilities for their staff to use an Airbnb or to rent an Airbnb just out of the economy, right? That because
Mm.
economically it's viable, are gonna force into their policies that no, we don't take Airbnb anymore. We just take a, I don't know, I don't want to make a publicity, but we take a world-known chain of hotels, and that's where our employees will stay because we know that they're certified this, and this, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
avoid the liability issue, I think. So I think corporate is going to come back to hotels, and individuals are going to maybe go pitch those hotels, maybe, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and favor some things. But what you touched on at the beginning is very interesting. Is traveling local, right? So
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of going on a instead of hopping on an airplane because it's just $50 and going to the other side of the continent, you're just
Yeah.
gonna grab a car. You're gonna rent a car and then drive for 100 miles, and then
I,
you're
yeah.
somewhere else.
Because on the levels of danger, sort of, yeah,
Yeah,
traveling internationally through airports is
yeah,
high. Hiring a car, driving locally, it's like
yeah.
seems extremely safe compared to.
It's still, yeah. Even though it could turn out to be the same in terms of risk, but psychologically speaking, you feel safer because you have
Sure.
always the option of telling myself, okay, in any case, I can just hop in the car and go back to my place, and I can control that. I think,
I still want to go and have a break. I want to get out of town, but I don't want to risk too much social contact in
absolutely,
doing that. So
absolutely.
it's very logical. It seems very logical to me.
So how do you see, if we're going to wrap up, how do you see the next 6 months playing out? I know that nobody can
Mm.
forecast this. I'm asking you an impossible question, but from what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying, let's take wild guesses and talk in 6 months, see if we're right or wrong, right? Because somebody's going to be right, somebody's going to be wrong about something.
yeah.
And so how do
Well,
you see the next 6 months playing out in your
there
field,
seem
in your business consultancies?
in my business consulting, I'm going. Well, personally, I'm going very virtual. I'm going sort of virtual global and trying to find the people that I can work with that fit what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
And so that's a shift for me from thinking I'll do my business locally and sort of
Yeah.
help companies here go project globally. So that's a big thing for me. And honestly, I think it's great what you're doing. I'm feeding my way as well. So I've been running these online sort of peer groups and things.
Thanks.
And I don't have all the answers yet, but I feel like actually this whole thing has helped me figure out what I sort of feel like I really want to be doing.
Okay.
And I'm pushing in that direction. And it's I'm just going to keep trying things. But I see things being more about building relationships and community and helping people virtually wherever they are in the world, as opposed to thinking I've got to go to a local event, physically
Yeah.
to make things happen. So definitely that shift. I think that things are going to start to. There's obviously signs that certain types of workers are going to come back.
Absolutely.
People that have been through the illness, that are clear, they're going to come back to work, and things are going to slowly. I think in 3 to 6 months, things are going to start to come back together. There's these noises now about a possible vaccine by September by some Oxford guys, and so I think, and I suspect they'll find better and better ways to treat it, so it will feel like a less risky thing. But so yeah, I think for me it's just evolving, but I'm pretty focused on virtual at the moment, and just trying to keep connected. So I think it's great what you're doing, and you should keep doing it. And I know it's sort of experimental, but it's connecting people, and
It is experimental. I mean, I just took my phone. I literally flipped my phone, and I'm like, oh, I'm talking to a bunch of people on WhatsApp, Viber, whatever platforms, and I'm finding myself talking to 20, 30 people a day, and sometimes people that I haven't connected with in a while, right? And I'm like, on a regular business day, I don't talk to those people, right? So that's kind of
you're keeping people connected, and you're giving people an opportunity to be visible, and it's quite difficult at the moment to do that because we're all stuck in our little cells, you know. So it's good stuff.
Thanks. Just to finalize, if you're gonna give, like, I know that you don't like doing that, but if and you're too humble to do it, but if you're gonna just talk to the person that is trying to go through the same things you are, right? So building a consultancy that has some leverage in the knowledge and experience he's built and shifting into this digital era, what are the things that the personal problems you've been dealing with on this, and how do you think, what advice can you give to somebody that is struggling with the same things you're struggling? Like, my business is down, I have to rethink because you're going from local to global in just a matter of 2 weeks. I mean, even if you sat down and thought about it in a normal time, it would take you maybe 6 months to forecast. But now under circumstances, you're forced to be quicker, right?
I mean, maybe it's kind of what I've found is I'm talking to a lot of people. I'm referring to, I'm going to say, different types of coaches and advice, different people around me that can help me figure it out. And I'm trying to end up with something very specific that I can push out there in a big way. That it also feels right for the moment. And for me personally, my decision-making process and my way of evolving something like that is very consultative. So as I do it, I'm talking to lots of people. But to be very, very clear, I think to get very clear on what it is you're doing, and then try and stick at that and see if it works. Be experimental. But it's harder, right? It's harder to do everything digitally than say face-to-face. So I think the clearer you are, and the more for the moment it feels, the more likely you are to be successful. But if it's not successful, then just keep trying things. Okay. So basically try to resolve to some clarity, and then keep experimenting, because nobody's got the answer basically until you just have to be right once. You can go wrong as many times as you want, then you just have to be right once. Right. Just think that people are looking for answers, aren't they, now? So can you find something? Can you think of something that fits with what you do and your experience and skills that could provide some kind of answer, at least for now? All right. Well, I'm going to put in the link in the description all the things that you would encourage people to go visit if you have some any way people can connect with you. So I'll put it in the description. Thank you so much for taking the time of being with us. No worries. I hope to talk to you very soon.